خلاص فاضل سكة على آخر السكة لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين خلاص فاضل تكة على آخر السكة لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين.
مصر عادت شمسك الذهب تحمل الأرض وتغترب، فمن جديد تشرق شمس مصر في بقعة جديدة، في بقعة تحمل معها الخير والرخاء
that has with it prosperity and good for all Egyptians. Welcome, dear viewers, on a new day from the land of hope and good, from the south, from Toshka. Here was the old Egyptian dream to establish a new valley parallel to the old valley, a dream that was always there without any results. And in few years, the dream became a reality, a dream that became a reality with the will of the Egyptians and with the relentless determination and with the arms of men. The dream became a reality so that it became an engine to development in South the Valley. Today, President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic, will go on a tour in Toshka, in Aswan Governorate, to witness harvesting wheat in Toshka within the framework of the efforts of the state to establish integrated agricultural communities that would have economic revenues and would support food security and increase exports, as well as achieve more job opportunities to thousands of young people here in the south of Egypt. President Abdel Fattah Sisi is witnessing today the start of wheat harvest season in Toshka, wheat that was known by the Egyptians, the pharaohs, and they drew it on the walls of their temples due to its strategic importance. Today they will start harvesting about 217,700 fidans of wheat that would produce about 550,000 tons annually. A harvest that reassures all Egyptians. This message comes at a critical moment in light of conflicts in the whole region, as well as the Russian-Ukrainian crisis witnessed by the whole world. The political leadership realizes that wheat is a strategic weapon, and this weapon might be used by countries exporting it to pressurize the importing countries. Thus, there was a decision to expand the cultivated land with wheat.
علق أي أمور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك أكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نام للساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي. انا واهب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك هيخليك تتميز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك هيخليك تتميز. نام الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين نمت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا هيمشي. قول انا واهب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز. ادي وما بتديش عالفاضي، اشمعنى جدودنا ما بخلوش وترى تاريخك شوف الماضي، شوف احنا ازاي ما نسيناهوش. انا الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا هيمشي. قول انا واهب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك هيخليك تتميز. نام الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا هيمشي. قول انا واهب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك هيخليك تتميز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك هيخليك تتميز. نام الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين نمت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا هيمشي. قول انا واهب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز. ادي وما بتديش عالفاضي، اشمعنى جدودنا ما بخلوش وترى تاريخك شوف الماضي، شوف احنا ازاي ما نسيناهوش. انا الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا هيمشي. قول انا واهب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز، اكبر متحيز.
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مش ضعيفة لأ عافية، عشت فيها وساكنة فيا. مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
بالإيدين المصراوية، شايلة كل الخير معاها، املى كل الدنيا دي. مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مش فقيرة لأ غنية، بالحبايب والقرايب والحكاوي والغناوي والمصانع والمدارس، واللي زارع واللي حارس. هي
التزام المقاعد.
مصر جاية
مصر جاية
مش حزينة لا هانية حلم قد الدنيا دي مصر جاية
مصر جاية
واللي معايا وقولها ليا واللي حاولوا يضيعوها هم راحوا باقية هي مصر جاية
مصر جاية
مصر جاية
مصر جاية
مش فقيرة لا غنية بالحبايب والقرايب والحكاوي والغناوي والمصانع والمدارس واللي زارع واللي حارس هي أحلى صورة لينا هي
قالوا لي في جملة واضحة حط فيها اسم مصر جاوبت بحسن نية الجملة هي تحيا مصر قالوا لي ارسم علمها سرحت وتخيلت قصر عليه حراس كتيرة في وسطهم خط ونسر تحيا مصر تحيا وعيونها تملي صاحية وعيونها في كل ناحية وفي مليون اتجاه تحيا مصر حرة تحيا ألف مرة تحيا مهما يجرى لنهاية الحياة عروسة لابسة طرحة جاية لينا من بعيد وحاسبة كل خطوة عارفة هي رايحة فين بتبتسم بفرحة للقريب وللبعيد وبتشاور لبكرة ادخلوها آمنين تحيا مصر تحيا وعيونها تملي صاحية وعيونها في كل ناحية وفي مليون اتجاه تحيا مصر حرة تحيا ألف مرة تحيا مهما يجرى لنهاية الحياة تحيا مصر تحيا وعيونها تملي صاحية وعيونها في كل ناحية وفي مليون اتجاه تحيا مصر حرة تحيا ألف مرة تحيا مهما يجرى لنهاية الحياة تحيا مصر تحيا وعيونها تملي صاحية وعيونها في كل ناحية وفي مليون اتجاه تحيا
رئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية القائد الأعلى للقوات المسلحة
of the Republic and the highest commander of the armed forces. Peace be upon you. Many happy returns. Please be seated.
بسم الله الرحمن
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of the Republic. Distinguished guests, Aswan Governorate has the biggest project on the land of Egypt, starting with Aswan Reservoir up till the High Dam, Toshka, Kima, solar energy projects, as well as many others, reassuring messages to the Egyptians that there are steps taken on the ground for construction and development by turning the desert into a land covered with green. After launching Toshka project in the Upper Egypt Week, Toshka project is good that would be for the coming generations and the current ones, and it was revived after it stopped for a number of years. The political leadership puts food security as a priority of the strategic the security of the state due to achieving its role in implementing sovereignty. Toshka project is one of the mega projects witnessed by the country, looking at the economic expected returns from it, and its importance was doubled in light of the challenges and the conditions facing the world in the field of food security. And today we witness the start of harvesting wheat in Toshka. And the best thing to start with is verses from the Holy Quran. They would be recited by reciter Ayman Aql.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون صدق الله العظيم.
صدق الله العظيم. السيد الرئيس
Your Excellency, President, distinguished guests, the wheat harvesting season carries with it good, as it is the symbol of welfare throughout eras. Now we'll watch a documentary produced by the Morale Department in the Armed Forces under the title The Land of Good. The Egyptian is paving their way towards building a strong economy that would achieve self-sufficiency through projects that would never have been implemented without a future vision for a political leadership that has always believed in the importance of the dream as well as achievement. Wheat, the gold, the first plant that was given due importance by the pharaohs, and on it the best civilization was established. Egypt has known wheat thousands of years ago, and it is inscribed on the walls of the temples. And due to the strategic importance of wheat, the priority for the political leadership was to narrow the gap between imports and consumption. So thousands of fedans were reclaimed here in South the Valley, the promising land. And the fruit of the state efforts are achieved through cultivating 217,000 fidans that produce about 550,000 tons of wheat annually. Here, the dream is renewed in Toshka, one of the most important national projects in the field of agriculture, through achieving the optimum use of the water of Nasser Lake, as development took place in it and 36,000 fidans of wheat were planted. And to East Awaynat, the reclaimed and the cultivated land is 145,200 fidans. And in Ain Dalla, 4,550 fidans were planted. And in Farafra, 4,050 fidans were planted with wheat. And the state did not stop providing the new agricultural technologies and using the most modern agricultural machinery needed for planting and harvesting wheat. With building a developed system of silos in different parts nationwide to protect this strategic crop. 7 new silos were established with a total capacity of 420,000 tons, and they are Silo Arab al-Awaiqat in Qalyubiyya Governorate with a capacity of 90,000 tons. Bani Salama silo in Giza Governorate with a storage capacity of 60,000 tons. الصالحية silo in الشرقية Governorate with a capacity of 90,000 tons. Abu Suwair silo in Ismailia Governorate with a storing capacity of 30,000 tons. In addition to 3 silos in Al Hammam, Al Kharga and San Al Hagar with a total storing capacity of 150,000 tons. And today we're witnessing the start of wheat harvesting season on this land to enable Egypt to get back to its glory as an agricultural state that meets its needs of wheat. And Egypt always proves that it was and will always be the land of good. Your Excellency, the President, distinguished guests, the sector of agriculture in Egypt is one of the most important pillars of the Egyptian national economy. The state in Egypt's Vision 2030 has set strategic goals for supporting food security and achieve sustainable development. The speech of Mr. Essayed El Qasir, the Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation. In the name of Allah, Your Excellency, President Abdel Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic. The world right now is witnessing a number of problems related to securing food, starting with the pandemic COVID-19 until the disruption of the supply chains and the Ukrainian-Russian crisis, and thus comes the need to double efforts exerted to achieve food security for nations. Consequently, we find that the file of food security is a top priority for the state of Egypt through working on parallel tracks to achieve this objective. Through providing food through the strategic storing and production, as well as securing the sources of importation. Secondly, having affordable prices. Thirdly, the production should be safe and healthy, as well as achieving sustainability of resources. The problem of food deficiency is no longer an economic agricultural problem, but it exceeded that to be a political strategic issue related to national and regional security. And food is a strategic weapon in the hand of producing countries and exporting countries to pressurize importing countries to achieve their political goals. And since the sector of agriculture in Egypt is one of the main pillars of the national economy due to its contribution in providing food for people, as well as the resources for industry, and contributing to exports and creating job opportunities. Your Excellency has given the agricultural sector great attention, emphasizing the role played by this sector in the national economy, as well as the data that shows the Egyptian agriculture in figures. The total cultivated lands in Egypt is 9.7 million feddans, with a total area of 17.5 million feddans, and it contributes by 15% to the GDP and 17% to the agricultural exports. Accordingly, the state has put in Egypt's Vision 2030 strategic goals to support the food security file and achieve sustainable development. The most important is protecting the economic agricultural resources, achieving a large extent of food security and narrowing the gap, creating integrated agricultural communities, supporting the competitive edge of the agricultural products. And your directives was to support this file through the following elements. The first is the horizontal expansion, the second is the vertical expansion, and the third is developing the infrastructure. As for the horizontal expansion projects, we have a number of projects like developing Toshka, South the Valley, and in which we are now, as well as developing Northern Central Sinai, the new Delta project, and developing the Egyptian village, 1.5 million feddans, and West Minya project, in addition to the new projects in the new valley. And the state's strategy is based on directing part of these lands to expansion in the strategic crops in a way that would contribute to reducing the gap. At the level of the vertical expansion, it is in trying to come up with new varieties that are drought tolerant and tolerant to climate change. And we have increased also the percentage of fertilizers and adopting the species map for the crops to increase productivity. Regarding developing the infrastructure, the mega national projects are so important, like the national project for silos that increased the storing capacity, as well as establishing the agricultural wastewater treatment plans and modernizing the irrigation systems. The future vision of sustainable agricultural development targets reducing the gap for the strategic crops through a number of elements. And the second element is increasing the surplus from crops and increasing exports, as well as developing and improving the supporting and infrastructure for investing in the agricultural sector. According to all that, the current status of the crops and Egyptian agricultural commodities are as follows. We have multiple crops and commodities that achieve self-sufficiency, and we have surplus like vegetable, fruit, eggs, and milk. And we have other products like the fish that is about to reach self-sufficiency. We have other crops that has a gap, and with our projects we will reduce this gap to a large extent. In front of you, you can see the opinion of the international institutions that praised the Egyptian agriculture sector according to the report of March 2022. IMF said that the state has invested in developing agriculture and developing the supply chains to improve food security. And today, while we are honored to have you to start the harvesting of wheat in Toshka project, I would like to highlight the crop of wheat and its future vision in light of the Ukrainian-Russian crisis. The planted lands of wheat is 3,650,000 fedans, with an increase of 450,000 fedans than the year 2020, and then with an increase to 250,000 fedans than the year 2021. The expected productivity is 10 million tons. I would like here to refer to the fact that the average productivity for the fedan right now is 19, and I would like here also to say that the state is considered to be one of the highest productivity for every production unit worldwide, and the estimates of the harvesting season this year says that a large part of the harvesting would be in May. About 75% of the harvesting will take place during May, and 15 to 17% will take place during April, and about 8% will be during June. The state took a number of mechanisms to support the wheat crop this year. Most important of is increasing the planted land with wheat to 250,000 fedans, as well as announcing the price before the season and having contractual agriculture, and there would be an exceptional incentive given to the farmers. The national project for silos led to increase of storing capacities. Also keen on increasing the different extension farms, and there are 21,000 farms, with increasing the coverage of fertilizers accredited. Regarding the Ukrainian-Russian crisis, since the main source of importing wheat is from these two countries, Russia and Ukraine, we find that it is so important to diversify the commercial partner, especially that we have 22 other origins from which we can import wheat. On the level of the procedures adopted by the state to incentivize the farmers to increase the production of wheat, a number of decisions were made. First, coordinating with the Ministry of Supply, and the cabinet increased the selling points to be more than 57 to facilitate the provision of wheat. Also, the Prime Minister gave us directive to pay the farmers in 48 hours to encourage them. And also we gave information to all the cooperatives and the associations coordinate with the governorates and the farmers to raise the awareness of the farmers. There is a decision to prevent trading in wheat during the season except without a license. Finally, I would like to emphasize that we have a suitable strategic reserve with increasing the storing capacity, and also the plan of the state to diversify the source of importing wheat and incentivizing the farmers to provide us with the wheat they planted, and we are pinning hope on these farmers, the result of increasing the cultivated land of strategic crops, as well as supporting the vertical expansion. By all that, we can say that the state, with the efforts of its leadership and its farmers, can achieve food security for its great people. Thank you. The Ministry of Supply and Internal Trade continues its efforts to achieve food security and enhance its reserve of strategic crops to increase Egypt's reserves of the main commodities. Now we will listen to Dr. Ali Al-Misalhi, the Minister of Supply and Internal Trade. Peace be upon you. Your Excellency, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, let me explain the strategy of Egypt in preserving the level of main commodities and the importance of the silos project. The Egyptian strategy in providing the main commodities is based on the three main pillars. The first is Your Excellency's directives that the strategic reserve of these commodities should not be less than 6 months. And the second element is upgrading the distribution system of commodities and providing them to all areas in Egypt, and this increased the logistical areas and the distribution chains as well as the outlets. Now we have more than 40,000 outlets nationwide. In addition to that, we need to provide the provisions and allocations to provide such commodities, and Your Excellency provided $1.8 billion US dollars by the end of 2016 to increase the strategic reserve for different commodities. This led to Egypt's ability, as we heard from the Minister of Agriculture, to incur the external shocks during the pandemic and during the inflation wave after COVID-19 or the Ukrainian-Russian crisis. So at the level of wheat, that serves 71 million citizens, that provides bread to them every day, we find that we have 2.6 million tons of imported wheat, and we are targeting 5.5 million tons of local wheat, and this would give us 6.6 months. So now for the first time we can say that despite all the international shocks, we have reserve up till the end of January next year a strategic reserve of wheat more than 6 months. It might be even 9 months. As for sugar, we raised the producing capacity of sugar. From 2017 we had self-sufficiency of 75%, and now we're talking about 90% self-sufficiency. And after inaugurating Al Qana factory in West Minya by June, with increasing this producing capacity, we will have self-sufficiency by the year 2023 of sugar. And by reducing the planted areas of sugarcane, we increase the planted area with beetroot, and we have imported 200,000 tons of sugar last year only. And the level of the reserve is more than 6 months, and the season did not come to an end. We have still May, June, and the half of July in production of beetroot and sugarcane. As for rice, Egypt has self-sufficiency in rice, yet organizing and importing the rice all over the year is still taking place. We have contracts and we have a reserve that covers more than 6 months, and the rice season will start by September, so we do not have any problem with this important crop. But adding also pasta to the supply commodities. As for oil, we have a challenge in achieving self-sufficiency of oil. We depend on importing raw oil, but there are initiatives that are done so that we encourage this squeezing and factories and the milling factories to provide us with raw oil in the Arab Republic of Egypt. This initiative is going on for the second year, and we're able to achieve 42% of local oil from an imported seed, and 85% are imported oil. In addition to an initiative with the Ministry of Agriculture, we started this year planting 250,000 fidans of soya beans and 100,000 fidans of sunflower, and this might achieve 10% in addition to what was done. And we have a strategic reserve of oil for 5.4 months. And we're still opening the allocations for importing the oil needed. As for meat, there is a gap between the consumption and the local production of about 40%. Yet we narrow this gap through initiatives with the Ministry of Agriculture and the National Service. And we are also importing meat from Brazil. And there is the support of the Egyptian Sudanese company to provide the meat from Sudan. And we have a reserve for meat that covers 16 months because our contracts with the Sudanese are going up till August 2023. Regarding poultry, we have self-sufficiency of poultry in the Arab Republic of Egypt, but in some cases, especially during winter, the local production reduces, so we import frozen poultry. As for frozen poultry, its reserve is 7.3, and they are available, and try to regulate the market with the local chicken. As for wheat, is one of the most important strategic crops. We have 2.6 produced, and we imported, and 6.6 locally produced. And for rice, the reserve is more than 6 months, and the next season starts in September 2022. For sugar, more than 6 months of reserve, and we'll achieve self-sufficiency of it next year. As for oil, we support the local initiatives to increase the local oil and the local seeds. And this would happen with the Ministry of Agriculture, and we have 5.4 of meat, 16.4 months, for poultry, 7.2 months. So we would like to reassure people, despite all the difficulties the world is facing and all the economic shocks that happen around us, there is a real political will and directives from Your Excellency the President to keep our strategic reserve so that we can supply these main commodities. As for the importance of the silos project, this was an initiative from Your Excellency in the year 2014 up till now. We increased the storing capacities. We're talking about 3.4 million tons storing capacity of these silos. We've never been able to have the reserve of 6 months unless we have all these storing capacities in silos. Secondly, we put an end to the waste that would happen annually of wheat, and the annual waste that used to happen of wheat, if we consider it 10% and 15%, it represents 6 billion Egyptian pounds annually, and it is the value of the project up till now. The project costed 7.5 billion Egyptian pounds. So what we saved over the past 3 years exceeds the total cost of the project. And the main objective is, of course, protecting the wheat in the Arab Republic of Egypt throughout the year with high quality. and thus we can go on producing bread with high quality throughout the year. The reality we have today in the silos, we have the Egyptian holding company for silos. It has 2.5 million tons of silos. The holding company for food industries has silos, 600,000 tons. The general company for silos, and these are the silos in the ports, 300,000 tons, 3.4 million tons in total. The bankers were developed in the past with 166,000 tons storing capacity. This is how Egypt looks like. All these red points are the places where the silos are. So Egypt is covered, and there is a future project to increase the storing capacities in these silos in 3 phases. The first is 60 farm silos with a capacity of 10,000 storing tons per one, and this would support us. The other important point is finding the silos in the new agricultural production areas like Toshka 1, Toshka 2, Sharq El Awainat, New Delta, the future of Egypt. Qina and Al Farafra. All these areas have a future for the production of agricultural crops. So we need to have the needed storing capacities in those places to reduce the cost of logistics. Otherwise, it would be difficult to transport them all. In addition to increasing the sites with the silos to increase the storing capacity and to be 600,000 tons. So we have 100.8 million tons future and underway projects that are being implemented right now. There are 6 silos. 2 of them will come into service this season. Now we will inaugurate through the video conference some of the silos. Silos with a capacity of 90,000 tons in Salhiyya in Sharqiyya Governorate. Silos with a capacity of 90,000 tons in Arab al-Urayqat, Al-Qalyubiyya Governorate. Silos with a capacity of 60,000 tons in Bani Salama city in Giza Governorate. A silo with a capacity of 30,000 tons in Abu Suwair city, Ismailiyya Governorate. Thank you.
يدعم جهاز مشروعات الخدمة الوطنية
The national projects and services authority of the armed forces participates with the different state ministries and institutions and research institutes in a number of projects, one of which Toshka project that is considered to be a new addition to food security and agricultural wealth. The speech of Chief of Staff Hussein Abul Magd, the General Director of the Authority of National Services. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious, Your Excellency, President Al-Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic and the highest commander of the armed forces. Distinguished guests, I would like to welcome you in one of the spots in Upper Egypt that is full of good and gives different agricultural crops. And after 4 months from the inauguration of Toshka farm, we're convening here today to implement the pledge we made to seek narrowing the food gap from the strategic crops, in particular wheat, that is considered to be one of the most important crops and the most influential on the Egyptian daily life. And today we are harvesting what we planted in the beginning of the season for this strategic crop that enjoys great importance by the state of Egypt, that took strides in working on increasing the cultivated lands and depending on the production of Egypt from this strategic crop. Your Excellency, the President, while celebrating today a number of religious and national events, we are receiving a message from Allah that Allah would always protect this country and this nation from the severe developments we are witnessing today. And we seize this opportunity to congratulate Your Excellency and the great people of Egypt for the Liberation Day of Sinai, as well as the victory of the 10th of Ramadan and the small Bayram. Many happy returns to all Arabs and Muslims. And we would like also to congratulate our brothers, the Christians, for the feast, wishing that we always be united, as this is the main source of strength of this country. Your Excellency, the President, implementing your continuous directives and implementing the concept of food security and a contribution from the National Authority of National Services, we reclaimed to 120,000 fidans of wheat in Toshka, Al-Uwaynat, Al-Farafra, Ain Dalla, with a total production of 550,000 tons that are stored in the silos of the Ministry of Supply and Silo Foods Company. And by the end of this year and next year, God willing, we want to reclaim and plant 530,000 additional fidans during the second and third phase of Toshka project in cooperation with the Engineering Authority of the Armed Forces, the Ministry of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, so that the total would be 750,000 fidans with an average productivity of 2 million tons, according to the regulations. And in the near future, we will add 450,000 fidans in Daba as part of the project of New Delta, so that the total would be 1.2 million fidans with a total targeted productivity of 3 million tons. Your Excellency, the President, the role of the authority is not just limited to agriculture, but it is extending to cooperating with state institutions in providing the strategic commodities through 1,400 mobile and fixed outlets nationwide at affordable prices. That is less than the market price by 20 to 30% in coordination with the Ministry of Supply. And by trying to build new, strong generations capable of shouldering the responsibility, Your Excellency gave us directives to work with the private sector and the relevant authorities in providing food and food products to 13.5 million students in schools, in addition to establishing new projects planned to be inaugurated this year through the dairy agricultural complexes, as well as the slaughtering houses and the production of cheese, units for eggs, a factory for the production of potatoes that would contribute to narrowing part of the food gap through continuous coordination with all state institutions, in particular the Ministry of Supply and Internal Trade, to protect our reserve from the strategic commodities and crops. Your Excellency, the President, according to your directives, the National Service Authority is implementing national projects in all fields that contribute to building the new Republic of Egypt in cooperation with the private sector and the foreign companies. And we follow the environmental standards to contribute to keeping a non-polluted environment free from dangerous emissions. This year we will witness the inauguration of a number of national projects in different fields: the factory of producing pivot irrigation equipments, as well as the fertilizers factory, a factory for marble and granite, a factory for quartz, a factory for dark and black sand separation. And we are working now on other national projects like the production of quartz labitech, silica, environmentally friendly factory, as well as a dyeing factory for leather in cooperation with the Italians, the Dutch, and the German, and another for producing serum and vaccines with CVAC and PVAC, another factory for producing band-aids, a factory for plasma derivatives, as well as 20 centers for donating blood plasma, with Griforis, a pioneer company in this field, in addition to a telecommunication project for the satellites in partnership with the Ministry of ICT. Distinguished guests, the history will stop amazed with the Egyptian experience emanating from the strength, the will of the Egyptians, the great people of Egypt who realized that his future won't built by anyone but him, so he became patient and endured everything. And the whole world saw how Egypt has turned in few years from chaos that was about to destroy it into an oasis of stability and safety. The economic and construction development achieved on the land of Egypt would be the foundation of building the new republic that would uphold the value of the Egyptian human. Mr. President, we still have a long way to go, and was achieved through our authority is just a step on the way of building the future. We are seeking to achieve more stability and to help the Egyptian citizen enjoy his dignity and his future and provide him with the best standard of living. Allah has helped us in implementing these projects through your support and follow-up, and the support of the commanders of the armed forces and the different ministries. I would like to refer to the serious work that is done by honorable men from the National Company for the Reclamation of Desert Lands, and the National Construction Company, and the men of Engineering Authority and the Armed Forces for the efforts to achieve such a goal. Your Excellency President Fattah Sisi, the President of the Republic and the highest commander of the armed forces, after introducing the new projects that support the Egyptian economy, we promise you that our effort would not come to an end. We'll continue with the same strength and will to achieve our aspired goals for Egypt. May God protect Egypt and its people from all evil, and peace be upon you. Any orders? No, thank you. Your Excellency, the President now will go on a tour to witness the start of wheat harvesting season in Toshka.
وانا كم نفسي أعيش. ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه. إيدك في إيديا من الأول ما بتسيبنيش. يلا يلا نكمل سكة مشيناها. يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه. يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناها. احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه. وخلاص فاضل سكة على اخر السكة. لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكة على اخر السكة. لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. خلاص فاضل سكة على آخر السكة. لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. يلا يلا نكمل سكة مشيناها. يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه. يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناها. احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه. وخلاص فاضل سكة على اخر السكة. لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكة على اخر السكة. لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. خلاص فاضل تكة على آخر السكة. لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة وشوفوا رحنا لفين.
هنزرعها ونرويها نكتر فيها الخير بزيادة.
علق أي أمور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك أكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نام للساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي بلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نام للساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز. ادي وما بتديش عالفاضي، مش معنى جدودنا ما بخلوش، وترى تاريخك شوف في الماضي، شوف احنا ازاي ما نسيناهوش، نام الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نام للساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي بلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نام الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز. ادي وما بتديش عالفاضي، مش معنى جدودنا ما بخلوش، وترى تاريخك شوف في الماضي، شوف احنا ازاي ما نسيناهوش، نام الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز، اكبر متحيز.
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مش ضعيفة لأ عافية، عشت فيها وساكنة فيا، مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
بالإيدين المصراوية، شايلة كل الخير معاها، املى كل الدنيا دي، مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مش فقيرة لأ غنية، بالحبايب والقرايب والحكاوي والغناوي والمصانع والمدارس، واللي زارع واللي حارس. هي أحلى صورة لينا هي. مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مش حزينة لا هانية، حلم قد الدنيا دي. مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
واللي معايا وقولها ليا، واللي حاولوا يضيعوها هم راحوا باقية هي. مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مصر جاية،
مش فقيرة لا غنية، بالحبايب والقرايب والحكاوي والغناوي والمصانع والمدارس، واللي زارع واللي حارس. هي أحلى صورة لينا هي.
قالولي في جملة واضحة حط فيها اسم مصر، جاوبت بحسن نية الجملة هي تحيا مصر. قالولي ارسم علمها، سرحت وتخيلت قصر عليه حراس كتيرة، في وسطهم خط ونسر. تحيا مصر تحيا، وعيونها تملي صاحية، وعيونها في كل ناحية وفي مليون اتجاه. تحيا مصر حرة، تحيا ألف مرة، تحيا مهما يجرى لنهاية الحياة. عروسة لابسة طرحة جاية لينا من
مشاهدينا الكرام، لا شك أن الأمن
No doubt, food security is a matter of national security. Food security is used by the exporting and the producing countries to pressurize the importing countries to achieve their objectives. So all countries are trying to achieve food security at a national level to meet the needs of their markets. We are glad to have now an interview with the Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, Mr. Said Al-Qusayr. Good morning. Your Excellency, the Minister, now is the beginning of harvesting wheat in Toshka. How do you see this day for the Ministry of Agriculture and Egyptians in general? In the name of Allah, our presence in this great place, Toshka, the good that was launched by the President, and he visited in December 2021 to follow up planting wheat. Today we are starting the harvesting season, and we are honored to have with us the President to witness this season. And we always call wheat the yellow gold. And I would like to say many happy returns to all Egyptians, because this is considered to be a feast for the farmers. This is a national project implemented by Egypt in the field of supporting food security, and as you mentioned, the food security is part of the national security. So Egypt is trying to develop this file, and this project is considered to be one of the big projects that support this file. The President today will witness the beginning of harvesting 65,000 fidans planted with wheat. This is the first phase, and in the whole project we have 110,000 fidans planted wheat and palm trees, and there are other industries that would be related to it, like silos, agricultural industry, fertilizers projects, and this would establish new integrated agricultural communities and would create job opportunities for the youth. This would narrow the gap of the strategic crops and would increase production and would reassure the Egyptians that the production is here. And let me add also that in the second phase in October, the season of planting cotton, we will add 300,000 fidans of cotton. So in this project we have more than 370,000 fidans that produce more than 1 million tons, and this reduces the gap and increases the coverage, increases the level of self-sufficiency. So this is a major project. So we can say that today this is a reassuring message to all the Egyptians who are witnessing the developments worldwide and the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. Egypt now is on the right way to achieve self-efficiency. What are the elements adopted by the state to support this fight and increase the agricultural lands? Over the past 7 years, we witnessed unprecedented support from the President to food security file. The agriculture sector and food security are related, and they take about 25% of manpower and contributes by 15% to GDP, and it contributes to exports by 17%. So development in this sector would lead to development also in other sectors, as it is linked with other sectors. And we came out of the crisis of pandemic COVID-19 and the disruption of world supply chains. Then came the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. That's why the file of food security needs to be supported. And it is now a priority for Egypt. We have different elements to support this, the most important of which is the horizontal expansion projects and the vertical expansion projects. We are trying to reclaim 3.5 fidans over the coming years through Toshka, northern central Sinai, the Delta Valley, projects in New Valley, the 1.5 million fidans developing the Egyptian rural area. This would increase the planted lands, and a large part of these lands are used for the strategic crops, and this would reduce the gap and increase the level of self-sufficiency. The second element that the state is working on is horizontal expansion, increasing the productivity through using new plant varieties. We are one of the countries that are high in the production of wheat per unit of fidan, and we are also using varieties that resist drought and climate change. So we can say that Egypt is on the right pace to achieve self-sufficiency and food security. What are your words to the farmers to provide the wheat? Of course, the Prime Minister is following this up, and in coordination with the Ministry of Supply, we increased the points that receive wheat from farmers, and we will pay in cash in 48 hours to the farmers who provide their wheat. And also for cooperatives, we are coordinating with the governors and them to accelerate the provision of wheat from the farmers. And we would like to invite all farmers to provide their full production of wheat, and we pin hope on their patriotism, as they have always supported the state. Of course, it's a matter of awareness. Your Excellency, Minister Said Qusseir, the Minister of Land Reclamation and Agriculture in Egypt. Thank you.
ايضا يا فندم في الشعير، في القمح.
We have here barley, we have wheat, sesame,
لا في اماكن اخرى زرعنا السمسم وبنزرع حبات الشمس.
and we are planting sunflower also here.
بجد مرة تانية دي بس الشركة اللي بتروح أو بس عندنا البرحي، عندنا السكاني، عندنا الخلاص، عندنا النميشي، عندنا السيسي، نبت السيف، كل ده أصناف ظهرت جديدة أو إحنا سنة جديدة الحمد لله بدأت تبص سيف، عندنا أكتر من 30 قطعة فيها رشيد. وبنعمل كل اللي صبر أو كل اللي عدم الاتفاق اللي بتحتاج كمية دكتور قد إيه؟ المعاملات الفنية متابعة تطبيقية كل ظرف محتاج عديها. ده بنجي عمليه الاسلام شغال عمليه تسليم بس بعد كده ان شاء الله بعد كده اقدر اقيس بس التسليم بتاعها عشان اقدر ادفعها واحميها من الحشرات الحمد لله سيادتك عندنا محسوس سعيد زرعناه عشان نلبس الملوحه اللي موجوده في تركيا سيادتك محدد الشعير سيادتك المنتجه دي مليانه تستخدم تمام مليانه جدا جدا ان شاء الله نفكر ان شاء الله 10 فلوس ونخلص ان شاء الله نفضل سيادتك كمان بعد ما نشيل المحصول اللي هو الموسم الشتوي وكله نباتات عطريه او طبيه او عام تشعير نبدا نجهز الارض للمحصول الشتوي ابدا ازرع ابدا ازرع بعد كده نبدا ازرع محاصيل خضار الناس
تقول لي الكلام اللي انت بتقوله اللي هو الجريء الان الان احنا عندنا احنا المحافظه 175,000 الحمد لله احنا بدانا دلوقتي في عندنا الصوم 10,000 عشان تفكر على درجه الصوم هناك وابنائنا في الخارج عندنا في البيت تدرس من الفتره الدوائر الحمد لله كميه كبيره جدا طبعا كل صلاح له دور البرد المخيم سيادتك الحمد لله احنا وصلنا لمليون نخله اولاد 6 قطع منهم 2.5 مليون نخله مع المستثمرين بتاع الخاص مليون نخله كمان الحمد لله بنقول برضه نجح عندنا برضه واحد سعودي جاب تم عجبه في المدينه وجاب الخلاص وجاب السطحي ونجح هناك في ده هناك الحاجات دي بتبقى ليها اسعار عاليه يعني زي الخلاص والسطحي وعجبه المدينه دي اهم عجبه ان هي عجبه المدينه اول مره تتزرع في مصر في مصر عبد المدينة كويس عبد المدينة كويس بقول لك الفنادق يعني قصدي بقول لك الحاجات يعني محترمة احنا كنا ستين ثلاثة صحيح
إذا مشاهدينا الكرام نحن أمام موسم
We are witnessing a new season for harvesting wheat, and it's expected to produce about 10 million tons of wheat from the yellow gold. The state wants to receive 6 million tons through providing packages and incentives to encourage the farmers to provide their wheat. The state, under the leadership of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, always take a proactive measure by facing crises before even they occur. Egypt was able to deal with the world crises that threatened the security and stability and economies of a lot of countries, on top of which is pandemic COVID-19 and then the Russian-Ukrainian crisis. This conflict, with which the inflation rates increased, as well as the increase of food and fuel prices. Proactive steps that supports the Egyptian at this time. For example, the storing capacity of wheat in 2014 was about 1,200,000 tons, and then came the decision of President Sisi to launch the national project for silos. This project that included constructing 50 silos in different governorates to double the storing capacity and to increase it to be 3,400,000 tons in 2021. These efforts did not stop there. It is targeting to increase the storing capacity of the silos to 5.5 million tons, and with the expansion in constructing silos through the video conference, 7 new silos were inaugurated today. These silos are as follows: Arab al-Urayqat silo in Qalyubiyya with a storing capacity of 90,000 tons, Bani Salama silo in Giza with a capacity of 60,000 tons, Salihiyya silo in Sharqiyya with a capacity 90,000 tons, Abu Suwair silo in Ismailiyya with a capacity 30,000 tons, in addition to 3 other silos in Al Hammam, Al Kharga, Son Al Hagar with a total capacity of 150,000 tons.
لكل الناس في دايما حلم تحلم بيه، وانا كان حلمي على قدي ونفسي اعيش، ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه، ايدك في ايديا من الاول ما بتسيبنيش. يلا يلا نكمل سكة مشيناها، يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه، يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناها، احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه، وخلاص فاضل سكة على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين، وخلاص فاضل تكة على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. خلاص فاضل سكة على آخر السكة، لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. يلا فاضل تكة على آخر السكة لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين وخلاص فاضل تكة على آخر السكة لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين خلاص فاضل تكة على آخر السكة لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة وشوفوا رحنا لفين علق أي أمور في حياتك خلي لبلدك أكبر حيز راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك شغلك حيخليك تتميز نام للساعة 2 ما تنامش ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش ده احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا من قاعد معظمنا حيمشي قول انا واهب تعب البلدي ومصر الاكبر متحيز لا اي امور في حياتك خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك
وصل الآن السيد الرئيس
President عبد الفتاح السيسي
إلى نقطة
arrives
الحصاد
at the spot of harvesting the wheat
داخل توشكا
from Toshka.
توشكا الخير ذلك الحلم
That dream,
الحلم القديم
that old
الذي
dream
توقف كثيرا
that stopped for some time, but with the will of men and with the strong will, it became a reality we are witnessing today.
فبعد مرور 4 أشهر
After 4 months of inaugurating Toshka farm, today we are going to reap the fruit of what we planted with our own hands.
يتم حصاد
Today
نحو
217,700 tons are going to be harvested.
شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نملة الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا واجب تعب البلدي والمصر الاكبر متحيز. علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، علق اي امور في حياتك، خلي لبلدك اكبر حيز، راجع بقى رجوك حساباتك، شغلك حيخليك تتميز، نملة الساعة 2 ما تنامش، ما انت سنين انت ما بتقومش، احنا بنعمل كده لولادنا، مين قاعد معظمنا حيمشي، قول انا
مهندس يا فندم، لواء توفيق سامي توفيق.
Major General Tawfiq Sami Tawfiq, the chairman of the board of directors of the National Company for Land Reclamation. Last December, you honored us at the end of the planting season, and today we will start the wheat harvest season, and we are honored to receive you at the same time and the same place. We are all consider this to be an honor, and also one of the engineers will explain to you the machineries and equipment. Engineer Ahmed Abdelhadi Ibrahim from the National Company for Land Reclamation of Desert Lands. I will introduce to you the machines and equipments. To the north, in the arrow in red on the right side and beside the red flags is the harvesting combiner with a performance rate of 5 fidans per hour, and the tank is 7 tons. Next, besides the orange flags, the securing, harvesting, the plower 3 meters in width, and next is the loader for 3 meters square, and next is a distinguishing car. It is used to distinguish all kinds of fires, and next is an ambulance car with modern medical equipment on the right and left side, and towards the flags in yellow the trailers, and they facilitate the discharging of the collected goods. Any orders? Excuse me, now we'll present the wheat that is planted here. Toshka farm. The total cultivated land is 90,000 fidans. We planted 64,000 fidans with wheat, and they are seen in green. According to the planning of the engineering authority, we are going to add 270,000 fidans in October this year in area 4 and in the area called the Egyptian rural areas and East. While you honored us during the last visit, we pumped water in branch number 1, and the company was able to plant more than 2,000 fidans in this area. This area is North Branch 1, and its area is 29,000 fidans. All the machines are there, and the area is fully facilitated and utilized, and we will pump water in the whole lake on the 30th of June 2022, and by this full area would be one of the first areas that would be planted, and we'll have an opportunity to serve the land. So 27,000 fidans in addition to 270,000 fidans, then the area added in Toshka is 300,000 fidans next October. East Awainet farm. The cultivated area is 180,000 fidans. This year we planted 145,000 out of them, and they are seen in yellow. The company is doubling the planted area every year. Our need for fertilizers increase, and we depend totally on the Ministry of Agriculture and with the fertilizers department in particular. For example, in October this year, the company needs 36,000 tons of fertilizers. So this is an economic cost. So the men of the company established a fertilizers plant, and this was done in the company, and it would be under the supervision of the Ministry of Agriculture and the fertilizers department, and it will save 70 million Egyptian pounds. We'll do the same in Toshka next year, but with increasing the planted area, our needs will increase. In Awainet, we have very distinguished crops. In addition to wheat and maize, we have beans, and also there is the potatoes. One of the most important crops known in Awainet is potatoes, and that's why we will establish fertilizers and seedlings cooler for 64,000 tons, and it was used on the 15th of April, and it serves all the investors in the area in addition to the company. In the company, next October, we will plant the potatoes we will need afterwards for our factory. Your Excellency endorsed the decision to establish a potatoes factory in the area, and it will be inaugurated before the end of this year. The implementation rate up till now is 80%, and its capacity is 20 tons per hour, and by the end of the year it would be ready for inauguration. In Awainet also, you gave us directives to establish forests with trees of high value, so we did this in Toshka and in Awainet. Al-Farafra farm, it has 10,000 fidans. 7,500 fidans are pivot irrigation, and 2,500 drip irrigation. There was a problem in Farafra with the agricultural drainage, and you gave us the directive to start an experience. We started an experience with 700 fidans, and it was successful, and its influence was positive to the extent that we planted this winter wheat that we are harvesting today. And the area is 4,000 fidans. In Al-Farafra, we had an advantage, and that we depended on the solar energy plant. This solar energy plant was neglected. We used it 3 months ago, and this maximized the value of Al-Farafra farm. Isn't this the farm that we constructed? We started using it 3 months ago, and it maximized the production of Al-Farafra. Before starting with Ain Dawla, let's start the harvest season.
تمام. هو احنا يا فندم هنبدا بالمرحله الثانيه. صدقنا بالمرحله الثانيه دي. اتفضل. تمام. استاذن من سيادتك يا فندم قبل ما نخلص عين داله.
Before introducing Ain Dawla, let's start the harvest season.
مزرعه عين داله.
Ain Dawla farm.
مزرعه عين داله يا فندم 12,500 فدان.
12,500 fidans. We planted this year 4,500 fidans in it, and next year it will reach 6,000 fidans, and the remaining area is planned for other crops. By the success of agricultural wastewater and drainage in Farafra, we will apply it next year in Ain Dawla. Then the total planted area in the company is 220,000 100,000 fidans, and this will provide us with more than 500,000 tons of wheat this year. By next October, the total areas increased in Toshka and the other farms. We will reach 500,000 fidans of planted wheat, and this would achieve return that ranges between 1 million to 1,250,000 tons. And we can every year double our production and our planted lands. Thank you, Tawfiq.
ده توفيق ولا ايه؟ يلا ابدا اتفضل.
Who on start?
اتحرك على طول وخد شمال او خد يمين.
نفسي أعيش. ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه، ايدك في ايديا من الأول ما بتسيبنيش. يلا يلا نكمل سكة مشيناها، يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه. يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناها، احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه. وخلاص فاضل سكة على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكة على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. خلاص فاضل تكة على آخر السكة، لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. يلا يلا نكمل سكة مشيناها، يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه. يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناها، احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه. وخلاص فاضل سكة على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكة على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة وشوفوا رحنا لفين. خلاص فاضل سكة على آخر السكة، لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة وشوفوا رحنا لفين.
ونرويها نكتر فيها الخير بزيادة.
لكل الناس في دايما حلم تحلم بيه، وانا كان حلمي على قدي ونفسي اعيش، ولما رميت عليك حملي شاركتني فيه، ايدك في ايديا من الاول ما بتسيبنيش. يلا يلا نكمل سكة مشيناها، يلا نفرح سوا باللي احنا حققناه، يلا هانت خلاص وانا وانت قلناه، احنا نقدر وده اللي انا وانت اثبتناه، وخلاص فاضل تكة 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 على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين، وخلاص فاضل تكة 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 على اخر السكة، لسه تكة كان ناس كتير شكة 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين. وخلاص فاضل تكة 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 على آخر السكة، لسه تكة خطوة جابت خطوة 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 وشوفوا رحنا لفين.
يلا يا مصريين همتكم، ده الحلم خلاص فاضل عليه تكة.
احنا كنا دولة على وشك الانهيار ووشك الضياع، والشعب كان فاقد الامل والثقة في مستقبل افضل، وكان لابد من اعادة بناء الانطباع لدى المصريين. بعد 5 سنين بفضل الله سبحانه وتعالى وبفضل شعب مصر وتضحياته، احنا في موقف ووضع تاني خالص.
دائما برامج الإصلاح الاقتصادي برامج بتحتاج إلى رؤية سياسية وإرادة سياسية كبيرة وعزيمة شعب إن احنا ننفذ هذه الإجراءات.
أي حكومة لما بتتعامل مع قضايا شديدة الأهمية بتضع في الاعتبار رد الفعل.
مفيش إصلاح حقيقي من غير تكلفة، عشان كده مصر وهي بتضع برنامج الإصلاح في وقتها يمكن وضعت أكبر حزمة اجتماعية في تاريخها، لأن احنا عارفين إنه الحماية الاجتماعية الحقيقية هي توفير فرص العمل.
كام مليون بيشتغل في كل مشاريع الدولة من أقصى الصعيد لغاية اسكندرية، ما يقلش عن 5 مليون.
احنا وفرنا تقريبا في حدود 900,000 فرصة عمل سنويا، ودي الحماية الاجتماعية الحقيقية اللي فعلا بنوفرها للمواطن.
هو ده اللي مخلي المواطن النهارده عنده امل ويتحمل ويتقبل اي اجراءات اصلاحيه، لانه شايف النهارده في امل.
رد فعلكم على الإصلاح الاقتصادي كان محل تقدير واحترام شديد ليا، كان شرف ليا، تحملكم شرف.
المؤسسات الدولية الكبيرة كلها هي اللي بتقول إن مصر النهاردة نموذج نجاح لكل